A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we will study about a new topic, that is lipids. Lipids are chemically diverse organic molecules on the earth, and they are insoluble or very poorly soluble in water. They are hydrophobic in nature, means they are water repellent. They don't like water, and that is due to the presence of long hydrocarbon chain in their structure. But some lipids are amphipathic in nature. Amphipathic means they are both hydrophobic and hydrophilic. Hydrophobic means they are water repellent, they don't like water. But hydrophilic means they are water loving. These lipids, the amphipathic lipids, are the structures or the lipids which have two parts. The first part is hydrophobic and the second part is hydrophilic. And these lipids are amphipathic, means both hydrophilic and hydrophobic together at the same time. The lipids have very broad range of molecules, and it include fatty acid, phospholipid, sterols, sphingolipid, terpenes, and some other molecules. Lipids are of two types: simple lipids and complex lipids. Simple lipids are those lipids which give two products after lysis with the water or the lysis of the lipid molecule by the addition of a water molecule, and it includes the example of fatty acid and glycerol. Fatty acid and glycerol are those lipids which after addition of a water molecule or the breakage by the water molecule give only two products. The second type is complex lipid. Complex lipids after hydrolysis or the lysis by the water molecule give three or more than three products, and it includes rest of the lipid except fatty acid and glycerol. It includes phospholipid, sphingolipid, and other types of complex lipid which we will study in the later topic. The three major biological functions of lipids in a living world is: they serve as a storage for metabolic fuel, they are structural component of the membranes, and third, they have protective functions in bacteria, plants, insects, and vertebrates. These are the three major biological functions lipids perform in a biological world. Now, five general functions that is performed by lipids include: to act as a pigment in carotene molecule. Secondly, it acts as a hormone that include vitamin D derivative and sex hormone. Thirdly, it also act as a part of signaling molecule that include eicosanoids and phosphatidyl inositol derivative. It also plays a role in cofactor that include the vitamin K molecule. Fifth, it also acts as a detergent molecule that include the example of bile salt. These are five general functions that is performed by lipids, other than three major biological functions that include storage, protection, and structural component as a membrane. All these general and biological functions are covered here, and it include the normal or total functioning of the lipids in a biological world. In all the lipids, firstly we will study about fatty acid. Fatty acids are the simplest lipids that we will study. These are the simplest form, and they are the constituent or the main basic structures forming the complex lipids. Fatty acids have long chain of hydrocarbon, and where the number of carbon molecule may range from 12 to 24 in number. With the long hydrocarbon chain, they have one carboxyl group, that is COOH group. The long chain hydrocarbon or the alkyl chain in a fatty acid may be saturated or unsaturated, means they may have single bond or double bond in between them. If a fatty acid is unsaturated, means having double bonds, then that fatty acid always have a cis configuration, means the double bonds are always on the same side, and when we form the structure of that fatty acid, then we put all the double bonds in the same direction. Fatty acids are amphipathic in nature, means they have both hydrophobic and hydrophilic nature in a single molecule, and so they have polar and non-polar domains in a fatty acid molecule. Fatty acid molecule has the simplest structure of a lipid, where it has a long chain of hydrocarbon molecule, where we have presented a fatty acid having the total carbon number 16, where the carbon numbering has started with the carboxyl group and the second carbon is always represented as a alpha carbon. The total hydrocarbon chain with a carboxyl group together is called as fatty acyl chain or fatty acid molecule. Thus, a fatty acid is the simplest lipid, has a stretch of hydrocarbon chain and one carboxyl molecule, and this structure forms the basic structure for the other complex lipid molecules. Fatty acids are of two types: saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. Saturated fatty acids are those fatty acids which doesn't have any double bond in their hydrocarbon chain. They have only a long hydrocarbon chain and a single carboxyl group. These have a general formula of CH3CH2 whole and COOH, where N is the number of methyl group we wanted to add in the long hydrocarbon chain. It has the example of lauric acid, myristic acid and palmitic acid, and some other fatty acids are also included here. But an unsaturated fatty acid is a fatty acid that has double bond in their long hydrocarbon chain. If they have only a single double bond in their long hydrocarbon chain, then they are called as mono unsaturated fatty acid. If they have more than one double bond in their long hydrocarbon chain, then they are called as polyunsaturated fatty acid. Always unsaturated fatty acid have a configuration of cis, where the hydrogen atoms of the two carbon molecules are present on the same side of the double bond. But some fatty acid, unsaturated fatty acid, also has a trans configuration, where the two hydrogen molecules of the carbon atoms having a double bond are present opposite to each other. When a long hydrocarbon chain of a fatty acid have a number of double bond, it always has some single bond, and these fatty acid long hydrocarbon chains are in a conjugated fashion, means they have alternate single double bonds in their structure, and that makes or help to make them stable for a longer time. Fatty acids further has two more categories: essential fatty acid and non-essential fatty acid. Essential fatty acids are those fatty acids that are not synthesized in the body of an animal and they are taken by diet. They are very essential for the activity of our body, and it includes linoleate fatty acid and linolenate fatty acid. The second category is non-essential fatty acid. They are non-essential means they are endogenously synthesized in the body of the animals and include the rest of the fatty acid except linoleate and linolenate. It includes lauric acid, myristic acid and palmitic acid. Now we will study about the properties of fatty acid. All the properties of fatty acids is because of the presence of long hydrocarbon chain and the presence of single or double bond in this long hydrocarbon chain. The non-polar hydrocarbon chain of a fatty acid is responsible for poor solubility of a fatty acid in water molecule. If a fatty acid has a long hydrocarbon chain with lesser number of double bond, then it has very low solubility in water. If we increase the double bonds in the hydrocarbon chain and we will shorten the hydrocarbon chain, then the solubility of a fatty acid in water molecule will increase to a greater extent. The long hydrocarbon chain contained by a fatty acid always have a high melting temperature, means that fatty acid can be broken down or melted at a very high temperature, and that is because of the long hydrocarbon chain that make it more stable. If we increase the number of double bonds in that long hydrocarbon chain, then the melting temperature of that fatty acid will be down or lower with respect to the previous one. If a unsaturated fatty acid have cis configuration, means the hydrogen atoms present attached to the carbon atom involved in the double bond are in the same direction, then that fatty acid always have low melting temperature. But if a fatty acid is present in the trans configuration, then it is having a high melting temperature, that is due to the stability of the trans configuration. If a fatty acid is saturated in nature, means it doesn't have any double bond, then that fatty acid can form crystal structure very efficiently and densely. So all the properties of a fatty acid are dependent on the long hydrocarbon chain and the single or the double bond present in the long hydrocarbon chain. These are all the simple properties of a fatty acid that are studied at the basic level. So fatty acid topic is over. In the next class we will study about triglycerides and waxes.